Do you ever look at some business owners and wonder how the hell do they do it all? How do they take on so much yet seem to hit home run after home run? How do they find the necessary time and energy to build empire after empire? Well, today's guest is one of those unique entrepreneurs. Some would call him a unicorn, and he's kindly agreed to share his secrets of success with us today. It's a mind-expanding episode 609 of the 13-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of You Can Have It All Marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. How do I do that? Through weekly in-depth conversations with successful business founders who have walked the path before us. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Hey, a big thank you to all 97 motivated business owners who attended my recent customer attraction webinar. It was such a great success. Had about an 80% show up rate, which is fantastic for a webinar. That means you guys are motivated. And my guest, John Dwyer, shared some great insights into how to attract more customers using his proven technique that he's been using for years and years and years for both his business and hundreds of other businesses. What I'm hoping is for those who bought John's exclusive offer, there'll be some case studies starting to appear in 6 months' time, and I can share them with you. I'd love nothing more than that. Got another webinar coming up on Thursday, November 10 at midday and 7 p.m. I haven't got the landing page ready, sorted out for you to register yet, but it will be there. If you're on my list over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com or a member of my Facebook tribe, you'll be the first to know. It's a webinar on how to effectively outsource parts of your business that you don't want to. It's a webinar for business owners who are tired, who can't find enough hours in the day, who are working to a budget, but want to grow their business exponentially. And you'll find out how to effectively outsource, the traps to avoid, what you can outsource, how much it should cost, etc. And we'll be joined by Jeff Collinson, who is an outsourcing expert, an Aussie bloke who lives in the Philippines and runs a business process outsourcing business. So he is an expert. Be answering all your questions on that. Just be sure to head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and register on my list, because you'll be the first to know when that webinar is ready for registering. Let's meet today's business superstar, or as he likes to refer to himself as an old fossil. John Neilson is a qualified pharmacist with 49 years industry experience. And over that time, he's opened up a whopping 26 pharmacies, ran a pharmacy broking business, as well as a medical centre. For a time, he also owned and operated Koala Beach, a business selling sunglasses, hats, sunscreens, cosmetics and fragrances to pharmacies across Australia. And that company had 14 sales reps and at one stage was the largest hat importer in the country. This bloke's done everything. John's also been actively involved in several major property developments in Queensland. And if that's not enough, sit tight. He's the co-founder of Doctors on Demand, a very modern business. It's a 24/7 telehealth service providing online doctor's appointments, medical certificates and prescriptions. And he's also one of my ocean swimming buddies. That is a seriously impressive CV. Johnny, welcome. And what drives you, my friend? That is my number one question.
Wow, Tim, I think I grew up in a housing commission house in Tasmania with my parents, and they moved from Tasmania when I was 5 years old. And mate, we didn't have a lot, and we had a lot of love, and it was a great family environment. But my parents struggled to put me and my brother and two sisters through a private school, and I think from an early age I thought I really didn't want. I wanted something different to that, I think that's where my drive came from. Like it's just, it was always hand-me-downs. There's nothing wrong with hand-me-downs, but it was just an environment where things were pretty tough, and I just from an early age, I thought, right, well, I want to be successful. I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, when I thought that money was everything. And I guess that's where the drive came from too.
Do you actually remember, John, that moment? I mean, every now and then I hear those stories of people having an epiphany, of entrepreneurs having an epiphany when they're especially young. Do you actually remember, like, were you 10, were you 18?
I'll tell you what it was, Tim. I used to love water skiing in Tasmania. You had to be brave to be a water skier because the water was freezing.
Yeah.
And I wanted my dad to buy a speedboat, and the brand of the boat in those days was Pride. I wanted a Pride speedboat, and he said to me, mate, we can't afford a speedboat. So I wrote to the managing director of Pride, and I told him my story, and I said, would he consider donating me a speedboat? And he wrote back, and he loved the fact that I'd had the temerity, I guess, to ask whether he could give me if he would give me a brand new speedboat. He clearly said, well, that's not possible. But I think that was the moment when I thought, well, you want things like that, you're going to have to be successful. You're going to have to work hard.
You still got that letter? That's a beauty.
I wish I did. Mate. I wish I did. It was a cracker.
You've had quite the career over 49 years, and you've found yourself in, now serious entrepreneur, management, ownership positions. Have you received letters like that from people asking for ridiculous things because they're in a particular part of their life?
No, I haven't. I haven't, Tim. But I think as I've journeyed through my business life, I've come in contact with a lot of people that I've just mentored. I've got a young pharmacist friend who's in his late 40s, and I've been a mentor for him. Not a conscious mentor, but just there as a mate, helping him. And I've got another friend who's an architect, and I mentored him even though he didn't know he was being mentored for 5 or 6 years. So I haven't had people asking me to give them something, but I certainly have enjoyed passing on some of my knowledge and experience.
Johnny, you're very generous like that. You've kindly mentored a mutual friend of ours, very briefly, but I imagine there was probably going to be a couple more meetings with Byron. And it's important. We talk about mentoring a lot on this show. And, you're in a position, I guess, in your business life where you've got so much to give. And I encourage my listeners to go out and find a mentor. Do you think a mentor is best when the mentor reaches out to someone and taps them on the shoulder and says, hey, listen, I reckon I'd love to just give you a few tips along the way, happy to meet with you once a month? Or is it up to that business owner to reach out to someone and say, hey, listen, would you mentor me?
I think it's probably the latter. I think it's really interesting that, as we go into business, and we always have challenges, and one of the things that I remember clearly is reading an article by Ita Buttrose, of all people, about 30 years ago. And she talked about that fear. She identified it as fear, but you get this feeling in your gut, which is something that I think that all business owners get. It's a worry. Am I going to be okay? Is the business going to be okay? But I identified with that, what she was saying, because she said that feeling that you get in the gut is fear, and that fear is a good thing. You harness it, and because it makes you evaluate what you're doing. So it makes you look at everything so clearly. And so I've harnessed that over the years, and I encourage people that are starting out in business not to be put off by that, because a lot of people are. They think, oh, I don't like this feeling, I'll go for the higher ground. And it's a natural feeling that we all get, and I still get it today.
Geez, that's reassuring, buddy, to know that someone of your calibre still gets fear, and it is a good thing. Do you think, I'm being semantic here, but is it nerves or fear? Fear to me seems a negative emotion and stops most people from doing something that they probably should. Nerves to me just feels a little bit lighter. They still make you show up, but am I being semantic, or is it really
I think you could say it's nerves, but I think really it comes down to fear, which comes from the anxiety of failure. When people go into business, they put everything into it, and as you know, a lot of small businesses don't succeed. But that's not. I think there's something that Nelson Mandela said. Judge me not by my successes, but judge me on the number of times I fell over and picked myself up. I think that's so, like, everybody is going to lose a bit of skin along the way. No one.
Have you lost count of the number of times you've had to pick yourself up, or have you been blessed?
Heaps of times. I don't know anybody in business, Tim, that hasn't lost some skin along the way. I don't. The reality is that when you line up to kick for goal, it doesn't always go through the posts. Sometimes it comes off the side of the boot and goes through for a behind, or misses the goal. If you're a rugby, misses the goals altogether, and your kick goes wide. So I don't know anybody in my business life that I have, and I've met with a lot of very successful people. I don't know anybody that hasn't lost some skin along the way, and it's just part of taking risks, and it's a very common thing.
Well, they do call business the school of hard knocks, so clearly that's why.
Well, yeah.
What's your biggest business achievement so far, John? One that you're most proud of?
Well, I think I've done a lot, Tim, as you sort of alluded to. The pharmacy industry was great for me, and I've owned a lot of businesses, and the successes that I had in the pharmacy industry were, I would say, due to the people around me. You can't achieve great things without a great team around you, and I think that one of the things that I do have is the ability to draw a team, get a team around me, and get a loyal team and whatever. But I think that my proudest achievement has been the current business that I'm in, Doctors on Demand, because it's been a hard. We've been doing that for about 6 years now, and it's been a hard business, a really hard business, and it was only through perseverance, because there were lots of times when we had to ask ourselves, are we going to put any more money into this? But we're so glad we did, because I think it's going through the roof, and I honestly think within 3 or 4 years it'll be $100 million turnover company.
Let's talk about Doctors on. Just briefly explain what it is and where the idea came from.
Well, it's I guess you could equate it to a giant medical centre. I've owned lots of medical centres over the years, and I'm still partners in a very large one in Brisbane. But I guess it's like a virtual medical centre where we've got 95 doctors providing a 24/7 medical service across every time zone in the country, and we're the only telehealth company in Australia that's done that. So I guess it's like, if you on a simple way of looking at it, you'd say it's like a big medical centre, but we've got several aspects to the business. We've got the B2C side, so the business to consumer, where people just are looking to see a doctor in a more convenient way than, the old way where you travel half an hour or three-quarters of an hour and then sit to a medical centre, sit in a waiting room with sick people around you. Your doctor's late. And
so with Doctors on Demand, people literally call a number. We'll go to the website.
Absolutely, yeah.
Book an appointment with a doctor, psychologist. You can get prescription. I mean, it's just basically like going to a doctor online. It seems such an obvious idea. Like, was it your idea? Did someone come to you with the idea?
Where it came from was my partner. I've been in partnership with with John Martin, who's a mate of mine now, like much more than a business partner, but he and I have been in partnership for 25 years. He's a lot younger than me. He's in his mid-40s, and we had a pharmacy in Mount Isa, and Queensland's a massive state. It's further to fly from Brisbane to Mount Isa than it is from Brisbane to Melbourne. But we had a very big business up there, and in fact, John still owns the business. I'm not a partner in it anymore, but it was, seeing a doctor up there was so difficult. It could take our staff 3 weeks to get into a local doctor, and we thought, this is crazy. We were dabbling around, we're looking at a few things online, and we'd heard about telehealth. There was no telehealth companies in Australia at the time, and we thought, well, let's start a telehealth company. So we didn't. We thought, okay, well, how do we go about that? And anyway, when we launched, we were actually the second telehealth company. Someone beat us by about a month, and that's where the idea came from. We thought, well, there has to be a better way, and I think time has now shown that that medicine as we've known it has gone. It's changed forever. COVID was a massive catalyst for our business when everybody was so frightened to go outside and do what our business just took off. So we'd have to say that the COVID pandemic was the thing that really launched our business into the stratosphere, and it also coincided with the appointment of a full-time CEO. John had been our CEO prior to the appointment of our current CEO, and those two things sort of catapulted the business forward.
Johnny, some businesses, and I've talked about this with a previous guest or previous guests, I mean, there are some businesses that just got smashed by COVID, and, we really feel for them. There are other businesses that absolutely COVID has been an absolute blessing. And, COVID for Doctors on Demand on so many different levels has been a blessing. The fact that people don't want to leave their home, don't want to go to a doctor's, and COVID has educated people in Zoom and Google Hangouts and Skype and all these software programs that up until COVID really were just the realm of the boardroom. But now, geez, I wish I had shares in Zoom. I wish I had shares in Zoom and Doctors on Demand. I'd be a happy bloke.
Yeah. Just it revolutionised so many things. I'm regularly meeting by Teams now, and it's such a convenient way of being able to talk to people. It's just amazing.
I love the fact that the idea came from the fact that your staff in Mount Isa couldn't see a doctor for 3 weeks. So you're incurring a personal problem, and you've sat down with your business partner and come up with a solution. I'm so fascinated to know, having an idea, the idea is obvious. It seems like a very good idea at the time. You blokes obviously had the resource. It doesn't sound like a cheap idea to get off the ground. I'm assuming you don't have you got massive amounts of experience in retail. You don't have a whole lot of experience starting an online business.
No, none.
What do you do when you go, yeah, that's a good idea, what's next? Yeah.
It was a steep learning curve, because we had to write the program, we had to be aware of the regulations surrounding medicines, and there are a lot. So our pharmacy background helped us. We had a full-time pharmacist helping us, with all of the details to make sure that we complied with the regulations, and it's something that we've really prided ourselves on, in making sure that our service was just first rate, and it did comply with all of the regulations.
So when you say you had to go and write the program, I'm guessing you didn't, and I'm guessing your business partner didn't. What, do you go and find a team of developers in Eastern Europe? Do you go locally?
No, we went locally, and that was a rocky road. And to be honest, some of that early work is because it wasn't as good as it could have been. We're now in the process where we've got quite a big IT team that they are rewriting some of that early infrastructure, because it wasn't as good as it could have. But we now have got a very, 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 very good system, and it's sort of there are two parts to the company. There's the B2C, the business to consumer, and then there's the B2B, the business to business. That's a very strong area of growth for the company, because we've got large companies now, with contracts with large companies providing these services to their employees.
It is a well-oiled machine. I'm looking at your website. You've got 311,000 patients registered, 4,500 registered pharmacies. You've got some 63,000 rated reviews, almost 5 out of 5 reviews. So things are humming along. My girlfriend Sarah, who you know very well, has used it. It's just a really, really good service, and it's $60 for an appointment. It ticks so many boxes. I imagine year one, and it's an overused term, but, the old minimum viable product, did you just get something online? Did you launch something? And was it a really half-baked product that you did put to market?
Oh, well, it was so new, Tim. It was so new, and doctors didn't understand it, and we got a couple of doctors that sat in our office virtually doing, like in those early days, if we did 3 or 4 consults on a day, that was
a good day.
Yeah, we were very lucky. It was a good day. We employed a lady who is a solicitor. She's still with us today, Amanda Yates, who has been brilliant helping us get all of the legal stuff right. And she's been instrumental in driving the growth of the business.
I guess what I'm looking for in that question, I'm not looking for the right answer, but your answer is that so often when someone has an idea, perfection gets in the way of getting that idea to market. Oh, I've got to wait till I've got the right product mix, or I've got to wait till I've got the right manufacturer, or the right developer, or the right brand, or the right team. And, that might be 10 years away. At what point did you decide to roll the dice and go, hey, listen, this is not perfect. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's not really bad. Let's just put it to market. And I think there's a great old saying, and then we'll sharpen our offer on the stone of the market, where the market feeds back to you and says, hey, this is broken. This is no good. I'd like more of this, less of that. Is that kind of what happened? And then you continue to sort of develop it into a product that people love?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I mean, the difficulty, of course, in those early days was getting people to understand what telehealth was, what it could do, and that's why I think growth was so slow. But then when COVID came and people were confined to indoors, and we did a lot of, we spent our precious dollars that we had for marketing on Google search, we just saw like a massive growth in our B2C part of the business. And I guess we are constantly refining our service, constantly looking at how do we make this better. At one stage, Tim, for a period when COVID was on, the federal government, there was a Medicare rebate for telehealth, and telehealth became massive. But the reality was that the majority of what they call telehealth consultations were doctors talking over the phone to patients, whereas we were talking face-to-face to the patient, and so we were different there. But then, unfortunately, the government, Minister Hunt at the time, decided to withdraw the Medicare funding part of it, and so we're now $60 for a consultation. But the reality is that medical centres across the country have got to the point where, because the Medicare rebate to see a doctor is something like $38, which is just crazy, because, if you try and get a plumber to come to your house, he'll charge you $150 to walk in the door. But medical centres around the country have got to a point where they just cannot bulk bill and survive. So most doctors, they have what they call gap billing. So you'll pay something, and then you can claim your. So we're not out of the market.
So your $60 is almost the out of pocket that you get anyway from seeing a doctor in Australia, because most doctors are about $90 for an appointment.
It's below where the market is.
COVID would have changed the answer to this question, but pre-COVID, how did you promote and build something that people didn't know existed? You say you used put a lot of dough into Google search, but I imagine pre-COVID, there weren't a lot of people searching for online doctor's appointments in Australia.
No.
Or maybe there were.
No, and the growth that we were experiencing in the company pre-COVID was from our B2B side, through some really major contracts with big companies. So that's where the growth. So
what do you employ a business development manager, do you, and send them out on the road knocking on corporate doors?
Yeah, we've got a guy that's all he does, and we got some big clients like Rio Tinto, Medibank, Bupa. There are some big companies there that are using our services to provide services to their client base. And
so just on that, okay, so that's interesting, because they are big blue chip brands in Australia, and I'm imagining your value proposition to them is, hey, listen, we can help you avoid your staff having to take half a day off to go to a doctor's appointment. It can all be done from the comfort of their office. That's your value proposition. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then my question, you might not know the answer to this. I might need to interview your BDM, but how does he or she get past the Dobermans in such big companies and get to the decision maker?
Well, persistence. And now,
or are you just so well connected?
Oh, well, we're not afraid to knock on doors, and we keep, and then when you've got success with, like a major company, those other companies then say, well, gee, we really should be providing that service to our staff as well. So I think there's been, there's an awareness by employers that they need to provide, particularly in today's market where it's so difficult to keep staff. Employers have got to provide benefits, and providing benefits, access to a doctor 24/7, is amazing. But we'll be developing things in conjunction with some of these companies where which will just blow people away in the next probably in the next 6 months, where you're going to be able to have at your home a micro camera, which you can say a parent's got a sick child at home. He can ask the child to open their mouth, put the micro camera into the child's mouth. The doctor can see the child's throat. It can be put into the child's ear. You can have a stethoscope, a wireless stethoscope. You can get ECGs. You can do everything, and it's like what we are seeing a revolution in health now, and it is going to be mind blowing, Tim, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the next certainly within 6 months, probably within 3 months.
Does your head explode, John, when you think about the possibilities of a business like this? Because it's like you do have other businesses going on, which I want to talk to you about later. But this is a business. I don't know, mate. You mean it's every now and then you hit the jackpot, don't you? We all hit the jackpot in some way, shape, or form. But you've come up with a business idea that's right for its time. The rocket fuel of COVID came along and really helped its initial growth, and now, like as you say, you're on the precipice of just so many different things. I mean, you've got holograms, you've got AI, you've got augmented reality, you've got all this technology that, boy, oh boy.
I think.
Go on.
Sorry, Timmy, I just lost you there for a second. I think artificial intelligence is going to be something that's going to play a massive role in health. The doctors go through a 4 or 5 year course to study medicine and come out the other side, and then the reality is that most of what they've been taught is out of date within it was 18 months to 2 years, but the reality is now the way the market's moving and knowledge is developing, it's 73 days. And so, in other words, what a doctor was taught is out of date in a little over 3 months. There are 500,000 medical papers published annually. So how can a doctor possibly keep up with the latest research? It's just an impossibility. So artificial intelligence is going to become more and more important in helping doctors to diagnose and prescribe properly.
Yeah, you got a lot to stay on top of. The thing with Doctors on Demand, John, and we've spoken about this previously, is the upside of what you can do in that business, in that vertical, is huge. But then the Doctors on Demand business model and the way you've put it together, I mean, it could be marketers on demand, it could be coaches on demand, it could be psychologists on demand. I mean, where does that end?
We've got a lot of business names registered, as you can imagine.
No doubt.
But we're concentrating on developing ideas directly related to health, like X-rays on demand and pathology on demand. We see huge growth areas huge growth in those areas where people can just request pathology tests. All of those. We're working with the leaders in the market now to do all of that. But we've just had. There are definitely opportunities out there, Tim, but it's just a matter of staying focused and.
In your experience, John, in your 49 years experience of opening and running businesses, is focus everything? Because I see a lot of business owners that get distracted by bright, shiny objects. And it's like, okay, that's going okay over there, but, there's an opportunity there and there's an opportunity there. But the reverse side of that argument is that one is a very dangerous number in business if you put all your eggs in one basket. So should you focus on one thing and really, really grow it, or should you spread the load?
Well, I think Tony Robbins hit the nail on the head when he said, where focus goes, energy flows. So you better direct your focus, because it's a real temptation to chase every shiny thing, but you really need to be focused on the main game, and otherwise it's very easy to get diverted. And when you've got limited resources, you find yourself, chasing the next shiny thing, and that can be a very disruptive thing for a business that's trying to grow.
John, you mentioned that Doctors on Demand was second to market by 1 month when you launched the idea a few years ago. I imagine since there's been some copycats, there's been more competition enter the market in this space. Maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I am, but and having started 26 pharmacies and medical centres, competition has been probably something you've always been up against. What business hasn't? What's your view? Do you go, are there cease and desist letters being sent every other day? Do you just forget them and tell your own story? How do you manage competition?
There's competition, but as I said earlier, we're the only telehealth company to provide 24/7 service across every time zone in the country. That's no mean feat, to be able to provide a service at 3:00 in the morning to someone who's living in Perth or someone who's living in Darwin. So I think yes, there'll always be competition, but where we differentiating ourselves, I think, is in excellence, in developing new ideas and working with some of these companies to provide the services that they want to provide to their customers is pretty exciting. So you're never going to have it to yourself, but the most important thing is to make sure that the service that you do provide is the best it can possibly be, and the only way that can occur is if you're constantly evaluating what you're doing, ensuring that the reviews that you get are 5-star where possible, and if they're not, you need to address things that may not be, that could be better.
What does constant evaluation look like for you and your team? Is it a weekly meeting? Is it ad hoc?
It's testing the service yourself. For me, it's testing the service. Was that something that I loved? Was it perfect? If it wasn't perfect, was there a question there that could have been deleted? I've got to answer some questions going through. What's the flow like? What's the customer flow? So you're really searching for improved customer flow, and so that it's anybody using your service is not going to have the frustrations that can happen sometimes if you're asked too many questions.
So you essentially ghost shop the business. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah,
every now and then?
Absolutely I do. Yeah, absolutely I do. Yeah, absolutely I do.
Do you make up unusual conditions, or are they always genuine consults?
No, they generally don't know who I am until I'm talking to the doctor. But I want to find out, and we're constantly evaluating the flow and the customer experience. The user experience is just vital.
Yeah, no doubt. So, John, you have in your recent years, you've become an online tech entrepreneur, but most of your business life, you've been a retail entrepreneur. So I want to sort of segue into, what's it like to having opened and started 26 pharmacies and medical centres, etc. But before I do that, any big learning that you've been able to carry across that line between online and offline business? Yeah,
well, online is it's a new field for me, and it's still something that we're really learning every day about. It's such a new field, but it's an exploding field. But the retail side of things, I've had a lot of different experiences. I've done a lot of things other than pharmacy and medical centres. I've operated video shops when they were the rage, and discount import shops, but the reality is that you can't do any of these things without good people around you. And I think that's the key. Like for me in retail, it was always providing exceptional service. And I always would say to my staff, well, it doesn't matter if it costs us to provide outstanding service to somebody, because if you do, they'll be so blown away by the experience that they'll not only come back, but they'll tell their friends what you did for them.
What do you mean by exceptional service? Like, that sounds like a dumb question, but to me, and I know in Australia, mostly we get it wrong, and that sounds like I'm down on customer service in Australia, but you only need to go to America to confirm that we haven't got our customer service offering right.
No.
Why does good customer service have to cost any more? And what does good customer service look like to you in a pharmacy environment? Is it simply looking someone in the eye, welcoming them, identifying someone who looks lost and can't find what they're looking for? Is it all that simple stuff, or is there some greater secret sauce?
I think the biggest thing for me, and the thing that I always emphasised to my staff, was to remember people's names. And I use various techniques to jog my memory. If a customer would come in and I should know their name, but I've lost it, I'd put little stick-it notes in the dispensary, and I would just know. I'd put them in different places, but I'd know when that person came in where that stick-it note was, and I would be able to greet that customer by their name. And I don't know that I think there's no sweeter sound to anyone, no sweeter sound than hearing their own name and being. So I think that can stand you apart. And if your staff know that in every transaction you get an opportunity to use a customer's name several times, if they're using their credit card, you've got their name. If you're using a prescription, you've got their name. Use people's names, and I think that's the foundation for me of exceptional service. If you can do that, and it's not a hard thing to do, and people love it, and they come back because they just feel they're part of your business.
I think as an overall insight for any business owner listening, that is the insight there is people want to belong. As human beings, we want to belong, whether it be to a family, a community, a group, whatever, a band, whatever it is, the sense of belonging is fundamental to being a happy human. And so if as a business owner, you can do that by simply calling someone by their name, it might be setting up an online Facebook community where customers can go and talk to each other. It might be putting on events, many ways of achieving the outcome of belonging, but it's a bloody important one.
Oh, it's a vital one. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think people want to feel part of a community, and it might be an online community where they can talk to each other and whatever, or in a retail situation, people want to feel as though they're important and they're part of this business, and they feel part of this business if they're recognised by name and greeted by name. Because once your staff get to know someone and they're coming back, it's a snowball effect. You come back and they're greeted by name. It's a wonderful way to build a business.
Johnny, can you just share maybe 3 or 4 other secret sources to a pharmacy's success? Because I imagine these will also relate to anyone else who has a retail offering.
I really think for me, it's always been get those basics right and everything else will follow. I don't know whether I could list you five things, but what I would say at the top of any list that I had for any business that I've operated was provide amazing service, but you can't provide amazing service without amazing people around you. So you've got to make.
You've mentioned amazing people a lot, and I've actually just come off a 5-day conference up in Cairns where I emceed the Foodworks group. So these are small grocery store owners around the country, and of course, one of their greatest challenges right now is finding and attracting and retaining good people, as is most businesses right now, again, thanks to COVID. But even pre-COVID, attracting and retaining great people has been hard. You've said numerous times now that doing that has been a key part of your success. So what's the secret to attracting and retaining good people? Is it developing a strong brand? Is it being a good networker? Is it paying above, award wage? What is it?
Well, it's certainly you certainly got to make sure that you aren't below market with wages. But it comes down to, again, Tim, about your staff feeling as though they belong to something. To know that they're appreciated, that they're recognised, that you can walk into a business and call people by their names, remember them. I use lots of techniques to do that, because at one stage I had 140 people working for me, and it used to get really difficult. But I have a little thing in my notes where it's just called names, and under my businesses I've got all of the staff. And so if I'm visiting a business, I'll just spend a minute before I go in just refreshing the names of the staff, and then greeting those staff members by name. I just remember just recently it happened. We were having a dinner, a thank you dinner for the staff of one of our pharmacies, and it was just, I was going, and it was leaving for the night, and it had been a dinner around a large table, and there was a young girl there that I had only met once before, delightful girl with an amazing personality. And when I said good night, I went around the table and said good night to her using her name. She said, "Oh, he remembered my name." So it means a lot to people, and if people feel that they're part of something special and they're thanked and recognised, I think you're a long way down the track to having a successful business.
Yeah, I used to be part of a business, John, where the owner would go out. He'd take us out for a dinner, all the staff out for a dinner, maybe, every 3 or 4 months. He was very generous. And one thing he'd do at the start of this dinner, and there'd be 20 or 30 of us around the table or tables, one of the things that he would do at the start of the dinner before we all got too pissed and, having a good time, was he'd literally walk around the table. He would stand behind you and put his hand on your shoulder and share one thing that he admired about you. And he went round to every single staff member and did that.
Yeah,
and how do you reckon everyone felt by the end of that? There were a lot of pumped out chests, mate.
Yeah, no, that's a great skill.
A lot of pumped out chests.
Great skill.
Let's just talk about pharmacy and the threat to pharmacy, because we've already seen, and I'm going to mention it, I'm going to swear now, Chemist Warehouse, which I imagine, I've had Jack Gance on this program a few years ago, who is one of the founders of Chemist Warehouse. Now, for those overseas who don't know, that's a big discount chemist chain, came in, blew a lot of little pharmacies out of the water. John, you may have suffered the consequences of them, or maybe not, but they do offer an incredible range. It's incredibly well priced. On the opposite end of that spectrum, there are a lot of little pharmacies that I don't think offer great service, and they're super expensive. So I'm not sure really what my question is there. First of all, how do they survive? Is it just one of convenience? Some people can't be bothered to travel to a Chemist Warehouse, or they like being ripped off?
Yeah, it's like anything. Look, the Chemist Warehouse chain is behemoth. There's no doubt about that. It's they got a successful, tested a new formula and found how amazing it was. Opened another one, found it equally as successful, and then they used a blitzkrieg to taking and basically opened as many of these pharmacies as quickly as they could around Australia, and they're phenomenally successful. I think they control about 20% or 25% of the market. But
Is that all?
Yeah,
I would have thought it'd be a whole lot more.
No, well, it's still that's a massive turnover they've got.
Well,
but, it's a big market, but I think are they a threat to pharmacies? Well, I've only got an interest in 2 pharmacies now, but they're not a threat to either of them because of the way we've differentiated the business and because of the level of service we provide. Because when you're providing a discount service like that, they have a wages percentage. I don't think they want to go over 8% of turnover on wages. So as a result of that, they don't have a lot of staff that can give you great service and advice. So, people can, there's no doubt that I'll take my hat off to them. They're great retailers, but I don't think I think you can compete against them and, you can match prices when necessary. And, they don't faze me from that point of view.
One of the things I feel pharmacy has lost is when the pharmacist would come out from behind his or her laboratory type counter at the back of the shop and just spend some time with you on the shop floor. That doesn't seem to happen anymore. And in fact, I get the vibe that when you do look the pharmacist in the eye, whether it be at a chemist warehouse or any type of chemist, they very quickly avoid you and want to do anything but come down onto the shop floor and just leave it to one of the retail girls or guys.
Well, that individual that you're talking about is a person that's got no personality and avoids eye contact, whereas you really should be, even if you are unbelievably busy, you should be looking out into your retail environment and making eye contact with the customer and greeting them with a smile. That's one of the fundamentals of retail. And I think the reality is that unfortunately a lot of pharmacists lack a personality. Their personality doesn't suit retail. I say to people all the time, whether it's someone who's going to be pharmacy assistant or someone who's training to be a pharmacist, the most important thing is having a personality that is engaging and that you can smile and recognise, even if you're flat out. And one of the reasons that pharmacists aren't coming down as often as they are, Tim, is because the amount of detail and the amount of stuff that you've got to do now is just so it's overwhelming, and
you can't afford to get it wrong either.
You can't afford to get it wrong, and so I think those things are, they're some of the reasons. But generally speaking, unfortunately, if you don't have the retail personality, I guess I call it, you won't do well in pharmacy or any other retail industry.
Hey, Johnny, I've loved talking to you, mate. Thank you so much for taking us inside a very modern business and also inside businesses that, bricks and mortar retail, old businesses, I was going to say. I was trying to think of a better word, but you know what I mean.
Well,
I wish you all the success
Yeah.
with Doctors on Demand. People, check it out, doctorsondemand.com.au. If you're a business owner, which most people listening to this are, then maybe consider how you can, offer that up as a staff incentive. And if you are a human being, which I know all of you are, then give it a crack because it's a pretty amazing service. Thanks for sharing, Johnny.
My pleasure, Timbo.
Well, there you go, team. Pharmacy and medical entrepreneur John Neilson. There is so much to love about the way John's built so many successful businesses, both online and bricks and mortar. Surrounding yourself with the right people, making a habit of addressing customers and staff by their name. So simple, yet so effective. Always looking for ways to ensure your people feel as though they belong. Just getting the fundamentals right. That was my big takeaway. I'd love to know what yours was. Give us a buzz. Call the Small Business Big Marketing hotline on 0480 015 150. Let me know what grabbed your attention, or just let me know what marketing is working for you at the moment, just like motivated business owner Peter Harmer did.
Hey, Timbo. Peter Harmer is my name, and my company name is Beverly Hills Business Machines. We've been around a fair time now, and I could align a lot of what your uniform lady said with success in business over the years. Not the big success that most of your people have had, but continual success, grinding it out all the time. We appreciate what you do as a group, and thanks so much for being there with all different marketing ideas. It's been a tough time in COVID, and the guys that have stuck it out in this time most definitely have grit. Once again, thanks so much for everything you do for us. I'll keep listening as I work out here on my elliptical trainer. Have a great day, Tim. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks, Pete. I do love receiving messages from guests while they're working out. What were you on, an elliptical machine or something? I think I know what that is. Good on you, buddy. Multitasking, something I'm not very good at. Hey, glad you got a lot out of the chat with uniform lady Pam Jabeur in episode 608. She was amazing. 100 cold calls a day for a year. And now she's got a $15 million business with some amazing blue chip clients. Love it. I'll put a link in the show notes to that in case you haven't listened to it. Everyone else, be like Pete. Call me on 0480 015 150. The number's at the top of my website, also smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. And let me know one idea you've implemented from this podcast. Hey, if you're overseas, I'd love to hear from you. You can still call me. Just do a +61, drop the 0, then 480 015 150. Give us a buzz. Love to hear from motivated business owners any time of the day or night. Got some great guests coming your way in the coming weeks. We'll hear from one of Australia's leading e-commerce specialists who's just written the E-Commerce for Dummies book. And it is quite a book. I'm holding it here in my hand and it is significant. We'll meet one of Australia's leading economists who has past prime ministers on his payroll. He's going to tell us how to future-proof our own business through these tough times that keep on rolling. And we've got a fourth-generation business owner from New York who makes a product that you just won't believe. I won't say any more. I'll keep you in suspenders on that one. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app because you'll find 608 more chats with successful founders. This show was stitched together by editor extraordinaire Alex Amster, the music bed written, sung, produced by our very own Lockie Doley, Hammond organ player extraordinaire. But most importantly, to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.